Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Mark McNulty, president of Action Coach Bluegrass. Today, I have Chris Ott, the owner of Ott Communications, as my guest. We're going to be talking about his journey in business, ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a successful business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations just like this one. So, Chris, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mark.
Great having you. So, tell us a little bit about Ott Communications and how you came to be a business owner.
Sure. Well, I'm actually second generation. So, Ott Communications, which is now actually through some mergers and that kind of thing, referred to as the Ott Group. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. But Ott Communications started back in the late 60s, 68, when my father, who was a creative director in Chicago with a bunch of ad agencies up there, long story short, refocused his attention to the South, Kentucky, where a lot of the client base that he operated from Chicago, the companies he worked with then were KFC and General Electric, Thomas Industries, just to name a few. In Louisville, he worked with clients in Nashville, worked with clients in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and moved the family down from Chicago in 68. I was all of 5 years old then, but moved down. And because Louisville was so centrally located, he was able to really leave those places, still visit those folks, and eventually bought out the group that had sent him down and formed Ott Communications. So we started as a traditional ad agency. That term probably really isn't known much anymore. It's kind of the old Mad Men agency back then, but the ad business has, or the marketing business really, is transformed so much over time and really adapts to what's happening in the world at that moment, the needs of what customers are looking for in order to get attention for their products and services. So this business is always changing, it's always evolving, and we've evolved over the last 50 some odd years to be what we are today, which is now the Ott Group, and have over that time really dealt with a number of different customers. I've always said there's very few customers in the Midwest that we really haven't touched at some point in time, one way or the other, whether that's spirits brands or people in Cincinnati like Chiquita and Procter and Gamble. We've worked with really everybody there is to work with, and in a lot of different capacities. We do creative work for those folks. We do film. We do media buying and planning for people. We've done public relations for those folks. About, I would say, 20 years ago, we really started to focus in on convenience store work. And probably the last 10 years have really been focused in that C-store space, not only doing traditional advertising work and marketing work for that category, but we've evolved into a little bit of a digital play where we actually deploy and install digital displays in convenience stores for a number of reasons. The most prevalent would be menu boards. The C-store space offers food, and back in the day, long ago, it'd be you'd never eat anything from a C-store. Today, that's quite different. But now they have menu boards with menu offerings, that kind of thing, along with a lot of other assets, whether it's just promoting best practices in their stores. It could be a car wash, what the display needs to be for what the offer is there, or what's in the cold box, as far as even spirits or whatever. So digital is being used more and more in the convenience store space. And one of the unique things we do because of our background is we put in digital displays and use those solely for the purpose of advertising. And what I mean by that is we advertise endemic brands, the CPGs, the consumer packaged good partners that the retailer has, to be able to have offers in there, whether that's candy bars or, soft drinks, or it could be anything. And they're able to advertise on that. We refer to those as endemic advertising partners. And then we also have non-endemic advertising partners. Those are folks like anybody from the U.S. Army to Geico's and Allstate and people like this that relish the opportunity to be in front of the demographic that shops the store. So what we'll do is we'll go in deploy that asset. We sell the advertising to those partners and then create a program with the retailer to be able to share those revenues and help them make more money. We make some money along the way and really make the shopping experience a lot better for the consumer.
Well, what's your current role in the Ott Group?
Right now, I am still the sole owner and operator of it. I do have a very good staff of senior folks that have been with me quite a long time that operationally run things, the different functions, the creative departments, the media departments, the ad sales departments for what I just talked about for digital sales, et cetera. I do have some outside investors that I use from time to time and share revenue with them as we grow. We are constantly looking for means to be able to expand, and putting in digital assets is not cheap. So we have to functionally work with different lenders or friends to provide capital to be able to expand our business and do the sort of things we need to do. But really, I just oversee the operation as a whole. I still do an awful lot of one-on-one with the customer base, the retail base, the folks that are the customers. And so I spend an awful lot of time on planes and visiting those people and making sure that they're happy and what the next steps are coming up, how their businesses are changing and what they might need, and formulating plans to be able to help them grow their businesses and market the way they need to be able to be successful.
So, one of the things you mentioned was ad agency and how, that seems like an old-fashioned term and not everybody today really understands it. So how has the whole concept of an ad agency changed over the years? What is an ad agency today?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of, possibly the viewers that you have today would look at that. There was a show some time ago, it was named Mad Men, that kind of showed the way that the glory days of ad agencies. So
right, that's the ad agency I grew up with.
That right. So it's kind of a dirty word now, you know what I mean? The whole thought of it is not what it should be. So, back then, anywhere from post-World War all the way up till, the early 80s, when I was really kind of getting started and moving in that direction, a branded company, a Procter & Gamble would hire an agency really to conduct all marketing functions for them. Anything from planning what a campaign would look like, to doing the creative, to placing the media, to really being in control of that and handling all aspects of what that looks like. As time advanced, back when I started, when you looked at a creative group, you had to have an army of people to be able to create something. That was before Macintosh computers, right? And all the things that today we take for granted when you can do so much on just the laptop that I have to do creative with. There was real art, there was commercial art. People actually wrote words, right? They didn't go to Chat GPT and kind of come up with whatever the language is. So back then, you really put the work in to be able to do the creative on that. So all that has really changed with technology, the ability to use the technology in a way to stream your work into a focus that is what took 10 guys 30 years ago takes one guy half a day to get done, really. So, and then the advent of the fact that the customer, the partner, the folks that you work for really have that ability to do as well and kind of join in it. At the beginning, you guys do it and control it, really started to become more of a, we'll do it together and plan and do that, to today, where we are at this particular moment, is picking off pieces, whether it's creative or whether it's media or social media or digital media or whatever it is, really has siloed in functions that either somebody is really good at and they need help with, or you have an expertise that somebody doesn't, and playing to that expertise to be able to functionally conduct marketing in a way that benefits the customer that you're working for. So the days of the big agencies and thousands of people working there have really siloed into specific functions that are coordinated with the customer as far as what part of the plan you're doing, how much of it are you doing, and what are you doing to execute it and work that way.
What do you do to stand out There's a lot of marketing, there's fewer agencies, but lots of marketing companies, right? Lots of marketing people. What makes you stand out so that clients come to you and say, you're it?
The one thing, and I'll just focus on the convenience store aspect of it at the minute. Number one's experience, because we've been so involved in the growth of that industry and what it takes to run it and how to get it and what the customer base is looking for, and operationally how you assist those folks in so many ways. Experience is a big piece of that. Our experience and expertise ranges from merger and acquisition information that we're able to help those folks comply with, all the way through a lot of the legalities that go into it. When you're selling spirits and tobacco and things like this, there's a lot of regulation and
Right.
pieces that go into that. And really, it's evolving into, just what I had said earlier. The digital execution is something that really is part of that industry that is growing every day. And it's knowing that that's where it's going and how you embrace it, and then take the path to purchase all the way from the pump out front where somebody's fueling their car, all the way to that consumer walking in, and the touch points you're hitting them with, and the information you're using to guide them through the store, all the way to the point of purchase, right? Where you can really do some things technically that really become very good at, and have exclusives on a lot of it to help the customer gain more through his experience than just, simply walking into a store and hoping some signs kind of get you to increase the basket or buy another or do whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do.
So what is something that you wish more businesses out there knew about you?
I'm getting to be an old guy. So what I'd like them to know about our organization is that, number one, we've been around a long time. We're very experienced. We've got a senior staff of individuals that I would put up against anybody in the country, literally. And then really, what I'd like them to know, especially in the C-store space that I've spent a lot of time with, is there's very few organizations nationally that you're going to be able to go to that really have the understanding and the capacity that we do for the convenience store industry, and know how to help operators increase the value of their brand and make their cash register ring more.
So let's talk about kind of your journey in the business a little bit more. So what was the transition to ownership like?
Like I said, my father started the company back in the mid 60s. By 1990, and my experience was I'd gone to Xavier University in Cincinnati, got out of school, went to work at some agencies in Chicago. I worked for a couple agencies in Cincinnati. I did a stint selling out of home in a couple places, including Louisville, and then ended up going into business with Dad. And by, I'm going to say 1995, he was on the way out and was trying to find a position for him where he wasn't so busy and taking on so much responsibility. So I stepped up, and really not by a father-son family business deal as much as it was, I really was out picking up additional customers. So the customer base that I had really was growing, and that customer base needed, an infrastructure around it. So I grew that base and took the existing base that was there and melded it into kind of at that time, again, we went from Mad Men to a little more technically advanced stuff. So all of that came up and moved along, and was able to make a transition where we were a little more technically savvy. We were doing things a little more modernly, if you will, and really started bringing in folks that had expertise from different places to help drive the business and execute in a way that was greater than where we were before. So it went on the hunt for senior vice presidents in a lot of different capacities, and brought folks in from New York and California, and went through a long, rigid process to make sure that we were filling the need of where we were at the minute, but really more about where we wanted to go, and let those guys build silos and build the business up from there.
So marketing versus advertising, how would you describe the difference?
It's a function. It really is. When people talk about advertising, we do advertising, we do PR, so it's a function. And advertising, it's really geared around the buying the placing, the strategy, the concept, the plan of advertising a brand or product or whatever it is that you're advertising. And it becomes a functionality of that. Marketing is the overall, everything is marketing. There's nothing that isn't marketing. So you're marketing right now, right? So I'm marketing right now. So everything that you do is part of that overall, that source kind of model that's marketing. And then the word advertising just happens to be a function of what marketing is. So there's many other functions of marketing. One-on-one sales is marketing. So in today's world, a lot of people have titles that are marketing that back in the day would have never been marketing people, but everything really becomes marketing. Today you have attorneys are marketing. So everything is marketing, right? If you want to get out and talk about your business and how you can help somebody and what it is you can do to help those folks, all of that is marketing. The advertising is just a way to be able to tactically execute a marketing plan or a function.
Perfect. Thank you. I wanted our listeners to hear that because not enough people understand the difference. And, I always try to explain it's just marketing is every communication you ever have with anybody at any time.
Every email you write is marketing.
Yeah.
Every phone call you make is marketing. So everything you do is part of that overall strategy of marketing, and advertising is just a function, one of the many tactical executions that you'll have when you market.
Yeah. So when you look back on your journey as a business owner, what's been a memorable roadblock or hurdle that you had to overcome?
There's been many. Again, in this business, you should always expect change, and change is something that you embrace. But in my business, in my life, change is something that occurs so regularly that it can be upsetting, right? So a new guy gets hired in and changes all the personnel, and all of a sudden you're dealing with new groups of people, or you may be out altogether. So there's a constant drive for always new customers, always new plans, always doing something better, always trying to advance what your strength is along the way. So in my life, that seems like the struggle has been, it doesn't go any more than 15, 20 months that there's not a change in something. You have to pivot and refigure out what it is that you're doing and try to find a solution to that. So that's really been in this marketing business, in my world, what's been very trying over a period of, now it's been 40 years. So it just is a constant. You can never take anything for granted. Everything is just what it is today at this moment, and tomorrow it's going to be different. So you have to embrace it, expect it, and be able to change with that.
How have you had to adapt your leadership style to accommodate that?
There's so many things that, it used to be that our work environment, like many for a number of years, was a kind of a stoic, this was your job and this is how you do it, and kind of live life like that. But in today's age, again, we've had people move from being a pitcher to a catcher to an outfielder because it's just the way the business changes. And who knew that Bud Light was going to fall down a year ago? Who knew, right? So all of a sudden, all these people are changing positions and changing what they're doing to try to affect things positively. And in our world, we deal with people like that because we deal in the C-store space, and beer sales drop. So what do you do to bring something back up? And it's just an ever evolving. You've got to be a jack of all trades. And I guess, playing the field at different positions is a great way to put it. So I've become more guru-ish, if you will, as time has gone on. And you just have to sit back and relax and see what happens for whatever reason, and try to use the personnel that you have the best way you can to fill in the void. And I'll be honest in saying that we third party so much today. The days of finding an expert here or there and being able to bring them on, especially post-COVID. There are so many people that work from home, and we employ people that are on, both coasts of this country. And it used to be you really have to have them in the office. You don't. As a matter of fact, it's probably better that they aren't. You let people do what they can from where. And so a lot of adaptation to that, and the willingness to be able to kind of roll with that and see the way the world's changed and work with that is something that I've had to kind of grow into and figure out, well, that's the way the world is now, just like this meeting we're having today, who would have done this, right? So, but now it's kind of standard, right? It's how you do business. So it's just things like that seem very subtle, but it's very real. So the ability to be able to adapt, roll, pivot, change, work with what you've got and make the most of that, still while solving for the problems that your customers have and make sure it's getting done the right way.
Where do you see the business 3 to 5 years from now?
I see it expanding. I see the digital piece growing and growing. Again, we focused I always say we're an inch wide and a mile deep when it comes to that category. But today we get inquiries from a lot of different retailers on how digital might be used in their business. And it just becomes another marketing tool that years ago, hanging up a sign that says, hey, 50% off or whatever was great. Today, you can put a digital screen in a spot and have somebody talk you through the attributes of what that product does, how it works, what the value of it is, what the value to you is, and then really even use a QR code and drive you back to even more information or to a personal sales position to further encourage you to find out more about products and offers. So digital advertising and you can just see the explosion of it. You're in Times Square, right? Or Asia Pacific is full of it, right? It's information in your face, and we're geared to that now. 10 seconds of this gives us enough information. So it's kind of the way the world is going. We do it on our phones, we do it on our computers, and it'll become more of our life, going forward, that we'll see this type of information in our face in places that we're shopping. Very intrusive. It'll be in front of you. And if you want to pay attention to it, you can. And if you want to find out more, you can. But at least it's delivering what marketers want, delivering information to people that are in the place to be able to make purchases.
What's your big goal for 2024?
Right now, as the year just now begins, we have several initiatives with a lot of companies out there. So my immediate need, I've been on the phone most of the day, is preparing for and executing those initiatives with a whole bunch of customers going forward. So it sounds funny, but I've got my year planned out right now, which is good. It's a lot better than not having anything to plan on, right? So my objectives, my hopes for this year are to be able to execute what we have in the pipeline right now, get those things done, logistically take care of everything in a way that manifests positively for our customers, for their clients, their customers, and then therefore it'll manifest for us. So it's really just right now for 2024, let's get what we have in the pipeline executed up, going, and then we'll continue from there.
Awesome. Covered a lot of different areas. I appreciate it. So I've got a few kind of wrap-up questions here. Quick top of the head answers are best for these. First one is, so what's your key to success?
Adaptability.
Okay. What's one piece of advice you would give to fellow business owners?
Don't be afraid to work.
Okay. What's a book you've read recently or that sticks out in your mind as being really influential for you as a business leader?
As business, I don't know, but I just finished a book on George Harrison not long ago, and I found it really insightful. It was more of a life book. I would, look at it that way. And it was a kind of a spiritual thing, but it kind of gave me a lot of insight. What you worry about right at the second probably isn't what needs to be done. There's a bigger thing going on that you have to look at and try to use yourself and all the people that you surround yourself with in more of a whole to be able to really be effective as a person and as a business owner.
Do you remember the name of the book? I mean, it sounds like really intriguing.
It is. I'll have to send it to you. I've got it downstairs. I just literally finished it.
Okay. So if I had a magic wand and you had to choose one aspect of your business for me to wave my magic wand over and improve it tomorrow, what would you want me to focus it on?
Well, I would always have a magic wand on cash flow, because the way, business is adapted to is a very slow grow kind of, it used to be you sent an invoice and 30 days later you were in, but, the way transactionally things happen today, it's 180 days out before you really have everything together to be able to do that. So, and that might seem trite at the minute, but it would be cash flow, a way to be able to get things moving. And the only way to fix that is obviously, you go to a lender and improve your cash flow, but then you're really kind of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. But that would be one thing I'd like to see magically kind of happen in the world.
Okay. Before I go to my last question, so if people want to learn more about Ott Group, where would they, obviously your website, where else could they learn more about you and Ott?
They can go to our Facebook page, again, ottcom.com. The website is there. It's being improved now to kind of, again, we folded in the Ott Communications with the digital group, which was named 33 Degrees. And then there's another 33 DIS group that we have. And we folded all those companies together and we put them under the name Ott Group. But there's been so much history in each one of those brands that it was hard to get rid of them. So we kind of umbrellaed it and put it that way. But the website's the best place to go.
All right. Thank you. So last question. So what inspires you today? What inspires you the most today?
The hope of the way the world is kind of moving is very attractive to me. I've heard a lot of people talk about a younger generation of folks that, their work ethic isn't, and it should be this and it should be that. And I don't subscribe to that point of view. I believe that, that younger group has a real good take on what's important to them and what they're willing to do as, workers or humans, and their lives mean more to them and their families. And back when I was young, it was work and that's what you did. You didn't pay attention to anything else, right? If your wife called and said, I need you home, well, I'll be home when I can get home, right? So, but today that attitude doesn't exist. It's more about, I'm important and I know this. And really, if you step back and you look at it, what you find is those people are really looking at the world in a different way, which I believe is a better way. And in doing so, they're able to really deliver so many fresh, good ideas on how to do things, on processes, on development, on things like this that I would have never considered. So what I find really encouraging is this whole new group of young people, the way they see the world and how they affect it and how they can balance their lives with work and how they can do that and still do the jobs that they want to do. And I'm telling you, they really perform well. And at least that's been my experience, whether they're working remotely or whatever it is. So I find that to be an exciting new world, I guess, if you will, going forward.
Well, that's great. I really love that answer. Really appreciate you sharing that. So this has been Chris Ott with Ott Communications, now Ott Group, as they've grown. If you liked what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe to our channel so that you can see every new conversation that we drop on here. Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Some really valuable lessons and information out there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Good talking to you.